for our economy. Now is the perfect opportunity for Kenya to begin shaping the next phase of our national development. That is why, in my State of the Nation address last year, I challenged us to begin thinking beyond the immediate demands of today and to start imagining a futuristic roadmap for our nation. That was not simply a call to dream. It was a call to prepare and an invitation to begin building the institutions that will support Kenya's long-term transformation. That journey has already begun. We have already established the National Infrastructure Fund to ensure the investments essential for Kenya's transformation are financed sustainably. It is also why we have established the Sovereign Wealth Fund, the wealth of our nation, so that today's prosperity becomes tomorrow's opportunity, shared fairly between present and future generations. Together, these institutions represent more than new opportunities. They embody a philosophy of nation building, that lasting prosperity is built through institutions that outlive governments. Today's prosperity becomes tomorrow's opportunity, shared fairly between present and future generations. Together, these institutions represent more than new opportunities. They embody a philosophy of nation building, that lasting prosperity is built through institutions that outlive governments, inspire long-term investment, safeguard intergenerational wealth, and provide confidence in our economy. The second reason why I believe this is our moment is because our current roadmap is approaching its destination. Vision 2030 has brought us this far, but it is approaching its horizon. It has served Kenya well. It transformed the way we think about national development, provided a common direction, inspired investment, guided policy in the public space, and demonstrated the power of long-term planning. But honesty also requires us to acknowledge that some of its ambitions remain unattained. In several respects, we are still falling short of even the very standards we set out for ourselves. Vision 2030 set a target of Kenya becoming an upper middle income country by 2030. So far, we are off target. This is not a criticism of Vision 2030, nor is it a reason for disappointment. Rather, it is an opportunity to proudly learn from our successes, reflect with honesty on where we have fallen short, and define together Kenya's next long-term vision. The third reason why this is our moment is
you need to meet them where they're at, and Restream is the easiest way to stream simultaneously on over 30 platforms. Go live on Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, Twitch, YouTube, all at the same time.
The world is entering what may become the greatest wave of global economic transformation in the past 6 decades. And for the first time in modern history, its center of gravity is steadily shifting towards Africa. Our continent is the home to the world's youngest and fastest growing population, vast reserves of strategic minerals, immense renewable energy potential, abundant arable land, and rapidly expanding consumer markets. 9 of the world's fastest growing economies are in Africa. And by 2050, 1 in every 4 people on Earth will be African. Increasingly, global investors, manufacturers, innovators, and policymakers are looking to Africa not merely as a continent of future promise, but as the next frontier of global growth and prosperity. While we may not take full advantage of the previous 3 great waves of global transformation, we have a historic moment and a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, not just to be part of, but to lead the next transformation. We have positioned Kenya as one of the nations that will define Africa's economic rise. Fourth, and perhaps most profoundly, this conversation is potent because the time has come to fulfill not only the political and governance promise of our Constitution, but also its equally compelling promise of development, national transformation, and shared prosperity. Fellow citizens, the Constitution envisages both a democratic and a wealthy and prosperous nation. Democracy allows us to organize power, protect liberties, and govern ourselves. Through our democratic institutions, our laws and policy reforms, we have steadily transformed that constitutional principle into a proudly democratic national culture. The next chapter of our national transformation journey is to operationalize the Constitution's development charter. Place of birth has a genuine opportunity to thrive. Taken together, the provisions of our Constitution reveal something profound. They affirm that the purpose of state power is not simply to administer the affairs of state, but to expand opportunity, promote human dignity, create wealth, and improve the citizens. Development, therefore, is not simply a policy preference of those who govern. It is a constitutional imperative for the governed. While the Constitution's preamble commits us to build a nation founded on human rights, equality, freedom, democracy, social justice, and the rule of law, Article 10 of our Constitution speaks to patriotism, integrity, accountability, and sustainable development as among our highest national values. Moreover, our Constitution in Article 43 guarantees every Kenyan the right to the highest attainable standard of health, accessible and adequate housing, and reasonable standards of sanitation, freedom from hunger, and adequate food of acceptable quality, clean and safe water in adequate quantities, social security, and education. Together, we must ask ourselves what these constitutional guarantees should mean in practice. What should an education system worthy of our constitutional promise look like? What should define accessible and adequate housing for every Kenyan? What kind of health system is required to secure the highest attainable standard of health as is provided for in the Constitution? How do we ensure that no Kenyan experiences the indignity of hunger and that every family has access to adequate food of acceptable quality? How do we guarantee universal access to clean and safe water, meaningful social protection, and the opportunity for every citizen to live a life of dignity? Above all, what measurable outcomes should demonstrate that we are truly giving practical effect to these economic and social rights as contained in our Constitution? Equally, we have not defined with sufficient clarity what patriotism, equality, social justice, and sustainable development should demand of us as government, as institutions, leaders, or citizens. Yet, these constitutional aspirations cannot fulfill themselves. We must, as a nation, collectively define the standards by which they should be measured and establish a common national development charter for their realization. Until we do so, our development and progress will remain subject to the ebb and flow of political expediency, changing priorities, competing interpretations, and fluid guesswork. A national development charter for the attainment of these noble constitutional imperatives cannot be designed by politicians alone, nor by any single institution, profession, or interest group. It must be shaped by the people of Kenya themselves through an open, inclusive, and honest national conversation. For the Constitution belongs to the people, and so too must the vision that gives it practical expression. They demand the wisdom of our farmers and workers, the ingenuity of our entrepreneurs and innovators, the experience of our professionals and scholars, the moral leadership of our faith communities, the energy of our young people, and the participation of every patriotic citizen who believes in Kenya's future. Such a development charter will succeed when anchored on strong institutions, institutions that enable rather than obstruct, that solve problems rather than multiply, that encourage enterprise rather than frustrate, and that make it easier for people to work, invest, innovate, build, and create wealth. Great nations, fellow citizens, are never built by chance. They are built by design, by discipline, and by deliberate, focused national purpose. Ours should be no exception. National development must never be left to chance or short-term politics. It must be guided by a shared national vision that endures beyond administrations and election cycles. A combination of the robust democratic society we have built and a well-crafted national development charter anchored on the economic and social rights enshrined in the Constitution is the potent ingredient necessary for the quantum leap that will make up for past missed opportunities and take us into the path world nation that we rightfully should be. Fellow citizens, Article 3 of our Constitution places a solemn obligation upon every Kenyan to respect, uphold, and defend the Constitution. Every Kenyan. That duty extends beyond merely safeguarding its provisions. It obligates each one of us to build a broad national consensus on the destiny of our republic. The future of Kenya is too important to be left to politicians alone. It must be imagined, shaped, and built by each one and all of us. Patriotism, therefore, is not only measured by what we say about our country. It is also measured by what we contribute to it, what we build for it, and what we protect within it. Once we, as a people, define the national framework for realizing the aspirations in our Constitution, we will have settled the question of our destiny. Thereafter, the true contest of democracy should be about who has the best ideas, the soundest policies, and the best capability to take us there faster, more efficiently, and more inclusively.